This episode of Ask the Doctors is being brought to you by Wayne County Government.
I think that vaccines, both the Moderna and Pfizer, are safe. Like all vaccines, it went through phase 3 clinical trials, which means it was tested both for safety and effectiveness on large populations of people. The Pfizer had 43,000 people in that clinical trial. Moderna had 30,000. We really need to encourage vaccinations, continue the mask wearing, keeping social distance, washing your hands so we can flatten the curve appropriately.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Ask the Doctors on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. I'm Eric Marsh, Executive Director of Whitewater Community Television. Glad you're able to join us for the 51st show of this.
Wow.
We've been amazing. At this way too long. It's time you all wrap this up. Let's all go home. Don't you have some magic?
You need to talk to whoever's in charge of the pandemic. It's not me.
Man, there's got to be a little pixie dust or something coming from hospitals all over. You all just throw it on there and let's get this done, huh? Dr. Thomas Huth, Vice President, Medical Affairs at Reed Health, the only one of us that has actually done all 51 shows.
Do I get a medal?
You're my hero.
A certificate?
Sitting in for Dr. Jetmore this week, Christine Stinson, Executive Director, Wayne County Health Department. Glad you're back.
I am always happy to be here.
And we are always happy to have you here. Let's start with the week that was. There was actually a press release that came out of Reed Health that I'll kind of let you speak to. 25,000 shot vaccine dose given.
Yeah.
But the headline is, still too soon to declare victory.
That's right.
It's been a good week, but it's still not good enough yet.
It's not good enough because even though Wayne County is doing really well in vaccinations, not just the 25,000 that we've done. I don't know how many you all have done at your clinic, Christine, but the county as of last Monday, when I last looked at the statistics, was significantly above the average vaccination per population across for the state.
Nice.
And that's really a testament to the hard work that my team's doing, Christine's team is doing, and most of the counties surrounding us are doing not quite as well, but almost, but at or above the state average levels. But that's still only, at best, about 23% of the population, and I think that whatever we would define as herd immunity, which is more of a theoretical construct, and it's not like there's some mathematical way to determine what that number is. It's just the concept that at a certain point when enough people have enough immunity that the virus doesn't have any viable host to be able to go after, and that causes it to peter out. But I think at 24%, we're probably still far from that, and that's why we have to kind of stay vigilant. And I know everybody's kind of ready to be over it. They're ready to ditch the masks, burn the masks, and because that's the other half of my statement on that is,
right.
It's not time to declare victory and burn our masks. It's just not time to do that. But we're all looking forward to summertime coming and trying to get back to normal activities. I know that the plan is currently that the 4-H fair in June will go on as planned with more or less their normal live programming. I hope that that's possible.
I do too.
And, and the numbers have been low. We'll get to those. But, I would note that the numbers are not zero. They're at a level that we were last summer when we were concerned about things.
Yeah.
It's just that in a relative sense, they're so much better that people sort of feel like it's over, but it is not over.
They are a lot better than they were in, say, November.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that is a good thing. However, today was a relatively high day, that we saw. So, like Dr. Huth said, it's not time to declare victory and throw our mask away and carry on pre-pandemic. So, little concerned with the plateau that we've hit. Would like to see it even go lower before it kind of plateaus. And we might start seeing some noisy days where it's kind of up and down and up and down.
And
we'll
you
see how
talked about
this-
that over the last couple of weeks, that it's not doing this, it's kind of doing,
Yeah.
we're kind of at a leveling point right
that
now.
pattern continues. We'll see that in the numbers when we get to the statistical portion of the program, which I know everybody I love it, but maybe not everybody does. But we'll see that. And I think, pictures tell better stories than words can sometimes. But, when I look at the whole environment, like across the world, we see that cases are on the uprise in Europe, parts of Asia, South America, in the Eastern Mediterranean region, as the World Health Organization defines it. They're actually at the highest levels ever in that part of the world, which is, Turkey and like that, Turkey in that area. So, does this mean the world is about to enter a new wave? I don't know. Hopefully the vaccination efforts are going to impact that. But I'd feel a whole lot better if we had a whole lot more people vaccinated by now. And that includes particularly in the very highest risk groups, which, as we all know, is the older age groups. 90+% of the deaths, the hospitalizations and deaths were in people over the age of 65. And, in those age groups, we're looking at adoption rates only in the 50-60% range. So that's not high enough, I don't think, even in that age group. That's not enough to really get us to herd immunity. So there are still challenges ahead, and we'll have to see what happens. I hope that I'm crying Chicken Little, that the world is not, or the sky's not actually falling. But I don't know what the future holds. But I don't think that it looks perfectly rosy when you look at the whole picture around the world.
And everything that we could do now, while we're at a low plateau and not a high plateau, everything we can do now is going to benefit us if there is a third or fourth wave that comes our way. So the more people we can get vaccinated now, the better. We certainly are not seeing here in Wayne County a vaccine shortage. We actually have a surplus at the health department. I believe Reed Health daily has open appointments, as do we. Next week, I looked at what our appointments look like. Every single day there are open appointments at our clinic. We continue to do walk-ins today. We'll probably continue that next week as well.
Okay.
And on that point, before we went live, Christine, we were talking about how some people are wondering if we can just allow anybody to, come in. The problem is we still have to abide by the state rules, and so there are eligibility criteria, and we can't just vaccinate anybody and everybody. But to your point, you're trying to set up where people who otherwise qualify don't need to make an appointment ahead of time and just come on in.
Correct.
And I think that's the sort of outside the box thinking we're going to need to do to get more people vaccinated as we can. But unfortunately, I can't just vaccinate anybody and everybody. We still have to abide by the eligibility criteria.
And as we sit here on Friday the 19th at about 2:07, the eligibility is 45 and above.
45 and above, teachers. Of course, this is Indiana residents only. So that's the first hurdle that you have to overcome. Be an Indiana resident, 45 years or older, a teacher in a pre-K through 12. It doesn't include higher education yet. And then there are those certain qualifying conditions, diabetes, active cancer treatment, solid organ transplant recipient. I can't name them all, but all of it is on the state's website that you could go to. One of the ones that they just added this week was pregnant women.
Yeah.
So that is another qualifying
a really important
condition.
one.
Yes.
and kind of a little different from some of the other criteria because pregnant women were not actually included in the phase 3 studies for any of the vaccines, yet they're being added to the list, which is a departure from their usual practice. And the reason for that is that we know that pregnancy and the immediate postpartum period are periods of high risk for women, that they have more likelihood of needing to be hospitalized or have complications and poor outcomes from COVID-19. But there's some important information that's kind of come out that we thought was there, but there's some studies there are more studies corroborating this, which is that women who get vaccinated actually do produce significant amounts of immunizing antibody in their breast milk. And so this has added impetus to vaccinating pregnant and immediately postpartum women, lactating women, because it looks like that protects the baby.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know, so not only do babies when they're born seem to have antibodies to COVID-19 from vaccinated women, but even in those who are currently lactating and get vaccinated, they seem to be able to pass that immunity on to their breastfeeding babies. So there's more interest in getting as many pregnant and postpartum women vaccinated as possible now. So I was glad to see the state added pregnant women to it. Now, a pregnant woman can't just walk into the clinics. They can't even just register. I wish that were possible,
Yeah.
but their healthcare providers have to basically nominate them through a process that the state has. But I've heard they turn those around really quick.
Yes, they do. And all providers have been given that information from the state.
Yeah.
So providers know how to put their patients into that portal, and then there's a special note in their file. So we know when they register in that they have been approved by the state to receive that vaccine.
I want to go back to something that you said. I know you hate when I do that, but because I think, and I don't know for sure, so I need you to tell me when I'm wrong. You mentioned teachers in
Teachers.
particular, K through 12.
Pre-K through 12.
Pre-K through 12. So for your clinic, they have to meet that 45 and over guideline, but they are still eligible to go into some of the pharmacies that are set up with the federal government, whether they meet that age
Now,
or not, correct?
I like to say you're incorrect.
Okay.
You are incorrect.
Okay.
That was
See,
the case
that's why I
until
Yeah.
this week.
that's why I go there.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
They can go into Dr. Huth's clinic or my clinic. They could go to a pharmacy. They can go anywhere now. It wasn't
Any
they had
teacher.
Any teacher.
Okay.
Pre-K through 12,
12, right.
does not include higher education. I
Okay.
don't know why. That wasn't my decision. Don't shoot the messenger here. But all they would need to do, they can go in, fill it out. We will ask to see not only their ID, but something that shows that they are a teacher, a bus driver, a cafeteria worker, some kind of support staff, a classroom aide, whatever it is. And then we'll give them the shot. They can go now into any, and that is a recent change as of I think this week. So
Okay. I was going to say that wasn't the case when you were here last time.
That's true. That's
okay. Also, when you were here last time, you were saying you had asked for a number of doses from the state of Johnson & Johnson, and they gave you a fraction, about 1/5
fraction.
of what it is that you asked for.
But
you have some good news.
this is breaking news. This is cutting edge. You're hearing it here first.
I like that.
Yes. The Wake County Health Department will have a mass vaccination clinic next Saturday, March the 27th, and it will be a Johnson & Johnson vaccination clinic. So we won't be offering Moderna. So next Saturday, March the 27th, at the Elder Beerman Building, from 11 to 5, you'll be able to come in and get your Johnson & Johnson vaccine at the Elder Beerman site. We'll have plenty of vaccinators. Actually, we're going to have a couple of superstars in this region doing shots. Not only will Dr. Jetmore be there offering his expertise, but we just got confirmation today that Dr. Barrett, our District 56 state representative, is going to be there doing vaccinations as well.
Nice. Question, appointment only? Appointment preferred? Appointment mandated?
So the state prefers that people make appointments, and it definitely does make it a lot easier on everybody if you make appointments. So appointments are going to be available. You can go exactly the way that you schedule any. You just choose that Saturday the 27th. There'll be open appointments available, but we will always take walk-ins as well.
If somebody goes on there today to do that, is it already there, or is this something they need to maybe wait till the weekend or Monday to be able to find that Saturday 11 to 5?
I've been told that it's there. I have not verified that it's there.
Okay.
But we will have plenty of appointments for people. We will do at least 500 appointments that day.
Okay.
So I've been challenged to be able to do that, and I said, I think Wayne County could do it. It's the Johnson & Johnson single-shot vaccine, so one and done. And for a lot of the younger population, a lot of our teachers have been asking for the Johnson & Johnson. They like the thought of just single dose and I'm done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. So this clinic will be specifically a Johnson & Johnson single dose vaccination clinic. Next Saturday, March the 27th, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Elder Beerman Building.
Okay. Mark your calendars, make your appointments, go. I wonder if Dr. Barrett actually is given a shot any time in the last little bit. That should be, you know, he's been making laws. He hasn't been given shots.
He hasn't, but it's a little bit like riding a bike. You know, you never really forget.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to forget that while Dr. Barrett is a star, actually what we're really happy about is his wife Mary Ann is going to be there giving vaccines too. So that's who we really wanted, but we had to take Dr. Barrett along with her to be able to get Mary Ann there.
You're watching Ask the Doctors on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11 and WCTV Channel 21. We are taking your questions for Christine Stinson, Executive Director, Wayne County Health Department, Dr. Thomas Huth, Vice President, Medical Affairs at Reed Health. You can send your questions on our Facebook page, or you can send your questions to us via Twitter at WCTV Info. Before we start to go to some questions, I'll start with you. Anything else you need people to know? Any changes this week? Are we thinking maybe the state might lower some numbers this week? What are we
I
hearing?
don't think this week. I think early next week you'll see some changes, some lowering of the age eligibility. A lot of us have been reaching out to the state and saying we might be at the point now to open it up to anyone that wants the shot. I think that it makes a lot of sense the way Indiana did their vaccines, where we concentrated on the most at risk, which age was the most factor that caused the worst outcomes. We've gotten those down, now, and now let's open it up to anyone that wants the shot and get all of those vaccinated. Because like Dr. Huth talked about, we need to get as many people vaccinated as we can. So we'll do that. Then we could start working on why hasn't this population been vaccinated? Are there transportation issues? Are there trust issues that we need to address? What can we do? Working with the faith-based population, working at employers. These are some of the things that the health department is currently doing. Reaching out to some of our larger employers, saying, how about we come to you guys? Bring the nice big mobile vaccination clinic out there and get a whole swath of some of our bigger employers done.
What do you need people to know and hear from you right now?
Well, I want to give Christine kudos for something that she's been really all along. She and Dr. Jetmore have been saying that, hey, kids need to be in school. I think there was for a long time, you maybe felt like you were swimming against the tide a little bit in those discussions. But the reason I bring it up is because the CDC has a publication called the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. It comes out weekly. And in this week's publication of it, they report the results of a study that compared groups of kids, those who stayed in full-time in-person school, those who, at the other end of the spectrum, were at-home schooling completely and those who had mixtures, because that's kind of the three models that you see. And the result it was that it looks pretty clearly like those kids who stayed in in-person school have better educational experiences, better indicators of physical health, because they're more active physically, particularly, and maybe get better access to some healthier food choices and stuff that some don't have access to at home, and probably most importantly, better indicators of sort of mental behavioral well-being. Yeah. They're just, happier, physically and mentally healthier being in full-time school compared to either of the other options, and it was particularly noticeable in those kids who were completely full-time at-home learning, and in an intermediate level in those who had a mixed picture. So I think that was just good scientific corroboration that when it comes to the school question, it's really we need to do everything we can to keep the kids in in-person school where possible. And you were harping on that right from the start.
Yeah. Well, that's a direct result of the Wayne County schools. Mm-hmm. It's such a close relationship that we have with them, and them wanting to know what do we need to do to be able to keep kids in schools. And so we worked really hard to come up with good, solid plans that allowed schools to stay open for a multitude of reasons, mostly the ones that you talked about, as far as, we know children learn best when they're in the classroom. And so I can't say enough about the Wayne County school superintendents, school nurses. Whew, what a great group. I mean, they really are some rock stars out there.
Okay. Let's get to your questions. Let's see what we got. What are the most common side effects after getting a COVID-19 vaccine? Is it the sore shoulder that I'm walking around with and have been for 2 days now?
Yes.
Is that the deal?
That's the big one right there.
Okay.
I think tiredness. I hear a lot of people say, other than the sore arm, I felt tired for about 2 or 3 days after that.
Yeah, we've heard people. I've certainly heard of people who felt poorly for a day or even longer. Just aches and even fevers, but those are relatively unusual. I would say the sore arm thing is really the big thing. A few weeks ago there was a lot of chatter in the public media, the scientific literature, and so forth, the scientific communications about swollen lymph nodes on the side of where people get the shot. But I haven't heard very much about that lately. I guess maybe it probably wasn't that big a deal, just kind of stood out because it was unusual. As far as serious side effects, we haven't really heard much about people with terrible anaphylactic reactions lately, and we've had many more millions of people vaccinated since that all came up. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to know how real some of these things are and whether they really represent a significant issue with the vaccines. This week, in terms of side effects, sort of internationally, all eyes are on AstraZeneca's vaccine, which we only have in the United States, but has been prominently used in Britain, particularly, and in other countries of the European Union. There have been a few cases of people getting blood clot problems after having had the AstraZeneca vaccine. But there again, it's a case of, is it really related or not? When you're giving something to millions of people, many of whom are at high risk for just that kind of a thing. Just because they get a blood clot after the shot doesn't mean the shot caused the blood clotting. But that's the question that's being looked into now. Is there potentially a causal relationship? But it's literally, they've identified something like 25 cases out of 20-some million doses administered. And just, the simple math on that is that's about a rate of 0.000125%. And let's just say that's off by an order of magnitude of 100, then you're still well under 1% incidence rate. So I think that what we're probably going to find out is that that's just a coincidence. There's not really a relationship, but time will tell. But because of all that, it got a lot of attention in Europe, and some countries have paused using the AstraZeneca vaccine. The English have not paused it. They've said specifically, we don't think that's real. We're continuing on with it. But
that's a vaccine actually that still has not been approved for use, even on an emergency authorization here in the U.S.
It is not, and but I think that they're going to be applying fairly soon, within the next few weeks, is what I sensed might be the case. But actually, the U.S. is sitting on many millions of doses of it, and in fact, because of some pressure, President Biden has authorized release of some of that to Mexico and Canada for use there. But it is approved in Europe and in Britain by their equivalent agencies to our FDA. So I think probably when they apply here, it will be approved by our FDA, and that'll be 4 vaccines available. So that'll just multiply the options for people getting vaccinated. But I don't think we need to worry about this. I think the AstraZeneca vaccine will be just fine. It's rather like, in how it works, it's rather like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. It's not, it's...
Single dose.
It's what?
Single dose.
Actually, I don't know that.
I don't know.
Single dose or not. Haven't looked into it, but I know that it's a similar technology. It's the so-called viral vectored vaccine, or adenovirus vectored vaccine, and so it works differently than the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines do. And but it works more like the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
Okay. Next one up. My mom had the Moderna vaccine and has developed tachycardia. I'm wondering if there is any correlation between this and the vaccine. Kind of went through that, but something specific.
It's the same question. Just because something's related in time doesn't mean that they're necessarily correlated. So, or that there's a causation there. So the old adage is correlation is not the same thing as causation. I can't tell you that there's no possible link there. But the thing that needs to be done is a report needs to be made, if it hasn't done already, to in the usual manner. There's a vaccine adverse events reporting system, and all healthcare providers should have access to that. So if that's not something this individual has brought to the attention of the doctor, they should, and so that it can get entered. But it could just be a coincidence.
Okay.
I'm not aware of other people having that specific problem.
You mentioned that you were doing walk-in clinics. People can just walk in. They can do that today?
Today,
Okay.
until 6.
Okay. At the older Beerman site. Next question. Can people under the age of 50 get a vaccine from local pharmacies, or are they following the same state guidelines? Well, it's 45 and above at this point, but...
Pharmacies do have to follow the same state guidelines of whatever state they're in. So Ohio pharmacies have to follow Ohio. Indiana pharmacies have to follow the Indiana guidelines. So they can't be operating outside of the guidelines of the state that they're operating in. So in Indiana, we already discussed that. It's 45 and older. There's some of those certain underlying health conditions. They have to be reported. They have to have that doctor notation in there for them to be able to do that.
Okay. Let's keep going. Here we're backing up a little bit.
Oh.
People who have had chicken pox sometimes develop shingles later in life if that virus reactivates. Is it known if COVID can remain dormant and reactivate later in life too?
Well, I remember we didn't get to that question last week. That's what you meant by backing up. That's a really good question to which we do not have the answer. It is not known that this would be like that. There's no reason particularly to expect it to. It's a very different virus from the herpes varicella virus that causes chickenpox and shingles both. of those conditions. Shingles is the reactivated form. And so, you know, I guess anything is possible, but we don't have, that is not known now. We do not expect it to be an issue.
So the Corota Virus, which is a family that COVID-19 is a host of a bunch of different, and the common cold, correct, is one of the coronaviruses.
Yeah.
And if you've had the common cold, we don't see that flaring up later in life to something, you know, similar to, you know, the shingles are to chickenpox, which is a much worse version of chickenpox.
Yeah.
I've heard. There was a conversation earlier this morning about that, which is kind of very strange. The variants that are out there continue to grow, and I keep hearing there's one out of California now. Is that
Two,
one or
actually.
two out of California?
Two. There are two that are officially on the variants of concern list. The CDC has now kind of organized the thinking on this. They actually have 3 levels of concern about variants. And the first level is variant of interest, and there are a number of variants on that list. Remember that, as background, we have to remember that there are actually thousands of slightly varied, genetically varied versions of the virus already identified. But there are a small handful that seem to cause, that may be related to more severe disease or more transmissibility or have something that's significantly different in the way that it acts compared to what they're now calling the wild type virus. So anyway, for a long time we were talking about 4 variants. The CDC classifies them a variant of interest. There's a large number on that list. And then there's variants of concern, which now has 5 members. And then they have a level that is called variant of high consequence, which has no variants listed on that, but they're prepared for it.
I assume that's a good thing.
It's a good thing that there's nothing on it, but it's it tells you what they're thinking ahead about, because the expectation is that one or more of these variants of concern will now become a variant of high consequence and go on that list. And the variant of high consequence are ones that are widespread, cause significantly different disease, that have escaped coverage by one or more of the vaccines completely, that are not treatable by some of the things that we have on the market now, like the monoclonal antibodies or, remdesivir and so forth. So they're escaping the control mechanisms that we've got in place. There are none on that list currently, but there are 5 on the variants of concern. And 2 of those are were first identified in California, so they're called California variants. But they also go by a nomenclature or classification system that have numbers assigned to them. So the California variants are, I think, B1427 and B1429. So they're concerning. The big ones, the English variant, also called B117, is actually very widespread across the world. There have been 60-some cases of that identified in Indiana, and thousands across the U.S. Florida has a huge number, like over 1,000 from that variant already identified. And realize if we're picking up, say in Indiana, 60, I think it was 59 as of this morning, B117 variants, that means there's probably a lot more around, because we're not testing, not able to test every case, because they have to take the specimen and do specific genomic testing that only some labs are capable of doing. So they do a surveillance system to grab representative samples and have them tested. And through that process alone, they've identified 60 cases. So we know it's a lot more widespread than that, even in Indiana. But particularly the Brazilian variant and the South African variant are candidates to go on this higher level list, the variants of high consequence list, because they seem to be so much more both transmissible and cause more serious disease. But, and the South African variant is going back to the AstraZeneca vaccine discussion, that one is not covered by the AstraZeneca vaccine. That's part of what makes it a candidate for going on to the variant of high consequence list. And so, there are worries about this. And this week, Pfizer came out and just said explicitly, we don't think the current vaccines are going to work in the long run, and so we anticipate that everybody will need boosters periodically. So they officially have said that, and they're working on those boosters now. So be prepared for more arm hurt.
Ow. You're watching Ask the Doctors on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. Dr. Thomas Huth, Christine Stenson are with us today. We're taking your questions on our Facebook page as well as on Twitter. Next question up. What is the difference between the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines versus the Johnson & Johnson?
Okay, kind of refer to this a little bit. The Pfizer and Moderna vaccines use a newer technology called mRNA. They're mRNA vaccines, messenger RNA, and they work by us introducing into the target cells directly a messenger molecule that tells the cell, that target cell, to produce the spike protein temporarily, and then it stops doing that because there are enzyme systems in the cell that break that messenger protein down. But by producing that spike protein, it then causes the immune system to react to it and form antibodies. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine and the AstraZeneca vaccine both work by what's called viral vectored mechanism, which is you're actually given a live but weakened common cold virus. It's actually a chimpanzee cold virus, I think in both cases. That is genetically modified to produce the messenger RNA within that attenuated virus, and we give you that. It does not cause the cold, but it does produce the protein in the target cells. So it's just a different way of delivering the messaging system. So that's the main difference between them. And then, of course, the Pfizer and Moderna require 2 shots currently. The Johnson & Johnson is just 1 shot. Neither of us are familiar enough with AstraZeneca to know whether that's 1 shot or 2. And
Pfizer and Moderna require refrigeration or freezing.
Yeah, so there are
Pfizer's
from the patient's point of view, those are the main differences. But you're right. For us, they have these are consequential matters because you don't have the equipment to store the ultra low temperature versions. So Pfizer requires, if you're going to keep it for a very long period of time, we can't keep it at refrigerator temperature for a short period of time. Like a week, but really for longer term storage, you have to have the ultra low temperature freezer, which we happen to have at Reed, but they're not super common, which is why most places will try to use the Moderna virus when they can get it.
So I think it would come down to what maybe the person that asked the question would be, well, which one should I take? And to that, I say whichever one's available. If Pfizer's offered to you, take it. If Moderna is offered to you, take it. If Johnson & Johnson's offered to you, take it.
Yeah.
Just take one of them. Just choose one and stick with that one. But
choose one and take it. And for those that need 2 doses, get the second dose of the same thing.
We didn't talk about the efficacy rates, but I think it's not an argument against what you just said. But I think it's in the interest of full disclosure. Theoretically, the Johnson & Johnson, after 1 shot, has a slightly lower efficacy rate than either the Pfizer or Moderna after 2 shots. I'm not sure that difference is really significant. So to your point, if you have you really, I think the decision people ought to make is just based on, You know, if somebody is interested in the shot but isn't sure they can commit to, you know, because of work or, you know, whatever. People have lots of things going on in their lives, and it can be very hard for people to commit to something 3 or 4 weeks from now. And if that's you, then, you know, if you have the opportunity to get Johnson & Johnson, get that.
Which, you know, when people have an opportunity to have Johnson & Johnson, next Saturday, March the 27th, from 11 to 5 p.m., we'll be having a Johnson & Johnson clinic. We'll have appointments available. We'll also accept walk-ins. And that's March the 27th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Elder Beerman site. You have to be an Indiana resident.
You must have gotten some more, though, because I thought you only had a couple hundred doses. Who'd you beg, borrow, or steal that off of?
Anyone and everyone.
Okay.
Absolutely. I
Well,
went down the list of people. I begged, I borrowed, I pleaded, but we got an extra 500 doses, so
Okay.
we will do at least
Good.
500.
No,
on
the
Saturday.
the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is in relatively short supply right now because they had to revamp some supply, production facilities to be able to produce at the scale that they want to, and so there's a temporary shortage. But I think that the expectation is in the next, maybe not next week, but the week after, that'll probably be corrected, and there'll be a lot more availability of Johnson & Johnson. So I think the ability to find that someplace will get a lot better in the near term.
Okay. You're watching Ask the Doctors on WGTV Channel 11, WCTV Channel 21, streaming on Facebook Live. We're taking your questions, Facebook or Twitter. Let's get the next one up. Would you confirm the locations in Wayne County vaccinating for COVID in addition to Wayne County Health Department and Reed Health, and how to register for all locations?
Well, the easiest way to register is to go to rshot.com or rshot.org.
rshot.in.gov.
Yeah. I knew between the three of us we would get that right.
No problem. Just
There
read
it
the
is.
bottom of the
There it
screen.
is.
There we go.
There we go. That's the easiest way because all the vaccination sites are
Right.
listed on that. But right now in Wade County, there's the health department site, which is at the Elder Beerman building. There's Reed Health site, which is at the Coleman Center at the fairgrounds. And then we also have Kroger's that is doing them, and Walmart now is doing those.
Okay.
So we have 4 sites
Yeah.
now doing them.
You know, and I have no idea what their supplies are like, so it may or may not be possible to easily get something from one of the pharmacies. Maybe, I just don't know. But I do know that the state has upgraded the way that the sites appear at rshot.in.gov so that those capable of mass vaccination are highlighted differently, so
Yes.
you can rapidly identify those. And I think our 2 sites are like that.
No, just your site.
Oh, just mine
Yeah,
is? Okay.
the Coleman Center is now highlighted, I think, with 12 other sites across the state that has the ability to have appointments available that you can get to pretty much in the same day.
Yeah.
So they are actually trying to drive people from areas that aren't able to do as much as Reed Health is, and directing people, if you can make the drive over there, you could get your shot. So.
Okay. Let's get a couple more questions. We're getting close to the statistical portion of our show.
Okay.
Let's at least
Fun
get one more
part.
question in. I'm having difficulties getting my young child to wash their hands the correct way. Do you have any tips or tricks for helping to promote proper hand washing for kids?
Spanking.
No,
You would say
didn't.
that.
No,
would say
you
that.
did not.
No.
Okay.
It's been a long time since I've had
Moving right along.
I think, I'm not the expert on this, but I happen to have been. I think that the CDC has resources for the public. So go look at the CDC website because they have actually tips on all that kind of stuff. But I think what I would probably do for my child is maybe come up with some song to sing, or somehow you have to make it fun. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the key.
And they have all those fun hand pumps and stuff that you could use. Anything like you said, making it fun is the most important thing to do that. And teaching them now will be much better when they get older, because I know adults now that don't know how to wash their hands, and it's not quite as fun to teach an adult how to
Or
wash
you come
their
up with a
hands.
reward system of some type, you know. I'm trying to think what I have a niece who teaches grade school, and what she would probably do, she probably does something like this in her own classroom to get kids to use the hand sanitizer and stuff. But I could totally see her putting like a chart on the wall, you know, you do so many hand washings a day, you get X number of stars, and once you collect the number of stars, then you can cash those in for some kind of trade or something like that. There's got to be a million ways to approach this.
In restaurants, we have them sing happy birthday as they wash their hands, but they think happy birthday starts when they think about washing their hands. It's actually, you know, turn the water on, wet your hands, apply the soap, and then begin the happy birthday song. And you sing it slowly as you wash your hands and get the dirt off everything. So
I'm going to find out what my niece will do and bring that information back next week.
There you go. I was going to
So
say,
Allison,
we need to reach out to a couple of
Allison
our
Townsend,
educators.
I'm coming after you.
I don't know how old the child is, but we've got our rock star educators who could probably give us something.
If this person that asked the question says that it's 17 years old, I'm going to be really disappointed.
Oh yeah, that would be hard.
Okay. Let's get one more question, and then we'll go to Dr. Huth's number. So let's go to one more question here real quick. Wayne County vaccinations are above average for the state, per Dr. Huth. Still only 23% of the population, question mark?
Yes. You know, that's really good in some respects. It's still a great opportunity on the other hand, if we can frame it in a positive way.
Yeah, we need to remember we're only vaccinating people 45 and older. So, you know, that doesn't account that we haven't even begun to do, you know, adults 18 to 45. So 23% of the population, we're still doing a relatively good job.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us always thought of Wayne County as being a slightly older age population, so we would have thought starting at the high age and coming down that we would have gotten to a higher number by now.
Yeah, I should have brought it, but we do. I'll try to remember to for next time, and so we can continue the discussion. But there is a difference in uptake by age group.
Yeah.
And you know, even in the 80-plus age range, who are at the very highest risk from COVID-19 illness, we're sitting at around 60 to 70% adoption, as I call it. You might call it other things, but that is people who willingly seek it out and take it. You know, maybe some people have barriers that we need to reach out to them. You know, the transportation needs and this, that, and the other. But still, you know, and maybe we'll never get to a certain number. So if our target is 90% of those, we're still 20, 30 points off of that. That's a little disappointing. It represents an opportunity. But every 10-year age group below that, you see a dramatic drop off in adoption as they've become eligible.
Very disappointed in the 45 to 50-year-old, and the 50 to 60-year-old. There was a big drop-off of takers in that age group than the ones that we saw from 60 to and on up.
So at every age drop you do, the potential funnel gets really wide, but the problem is the adoption also rate decreases significantly. So that's why in our minds, you know, you could open up just everything right now. We've got plenty of capacity to do anybody and everybody who wants to be vaccinated. But the state, we have to abide by what the state is saying. You know, but that's, you know, but we need the younger people to get vaccinated at a much higher rate than they're doing because they're the ones who are going to be more mobile. They're going in to check on grandma and you know, so it's not just about vaccinating the highest risk. Everybody else needs to get vaccinated as well.
For the person that asked that question and anybody else that's interested, these statistics are available on the state's website. They have just like you saw the dashboard where we were doing testing and we were looking at our positivity rates and stuff like that. If you click the vaccination tab, you'll come up to a vaccination dashboard, and you could filter that by our county, and it'll break it down by age groups also on the uptake of the vaccine.
Okay. We've got about 7 minutes left.
Okay.
Let's make sure we get these in, and then we're going to give you a chance to once again remind people about next Saturday, please.
Next Saturday, the 27th.
So the Wayne County statistics, hopefully you should see there first. We've got the main graph and a little inset that I've been doing. As of yesterday, there were 31 cases in the county this week. You said you've been having a big day today?
Yeah, we had 11.
Okay, so far, and so
Yeah.
your day's not over yet. But anyway, we should wind up for the week around 43, and maybe as high as 49, just baking in some confidence interval around that. I've usually been pretty spot on with these, so I'm pretty confident we'll be no higher than about 49, but we'll see. But if that turns out to be the case, that basically this week is just going to be kind of flat compared to the previous couple of weeks. So we've entered into a plateau phase, as Christine referred to it previously. Now, the Synset graph is the ratio of actual deaths to what should be expected based on what we know about age-adjusted case fatality rates. We're at about 95% of that. I've colored it yellow because the closer we get to 1, we like to have the number be less than what is expected, and it is, but not by very much right now. And with a few more deaths, it will exceed 1.
And that color has actually changed
Yeah, it
over the
changed.
last
I
couple
was
of
coloring
weeks.
it green. I've arbitrarily colored it this way. I just thought, 95%. When we reached 95%, I thought that's a convenient place to make it yellow because we're getting close to the 1. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing official about that. Except that it's the official Hughes way of doing it. This second graph is the vaccination rates in hours in all the counties surrounding. Just for a little tour on this, in gray is the Indiana rate, kind of where it would fall compared to the counties. And it also included the U.S. rate, which is kind of new. I didn't show that last week. That's the blue bars over towards the right. And if you line them up, basically Wayne County has the very best immunization rates, around in this whole part of the state, much better than the overall state average, better than U.S. average even for the started and also completed. And then at the other end is Franklin County is really struggling. We've reached out to them and we're setting up an outreach to help that county kind of make up. They're probably 1,500 to 1,700 cases are vaccination short of where they should be to be at the Indiana average. And so we're going to try to help them make up that difference over the next couple months. And so they're struggling a little bit, and I think there are a lot of reasons for that. Nobody's to blame, but I think that they have some, because of their geographic location and their very much more rural status than Wayne County, these are some things that are contributing to that. The read statistics are at the very end, and basically those are dailies for the last month, and basically we've been flat for the last 2 weeks.
Okay. Christine, we've probably got about 4 minutes or so left. I'm waiting on the voice in my head to tell me how close I am or am not. But in the meantime, tell us one more time about your vaccination clinic, which you have got coming up on Saturday, since you were able to get all of this Johnson & Johnson 500 shots, which you need to use it.
We want to deplete that supply down. So on Saturday, March the 27th, we're having a mass clinic. It'll be held at the Elder Beerman site at 601 East Main Street. Appointments are available. You could go to rshot.com and schedule an appointment. We will, of course, accept walk-ins as long as we have the vaccine available that day. So that will be a Johnson & Johnson only vaccination clinic from 11 to 5 p.m. on March the 27th.
Ourshot.in.gov is a great place to go. But in addition to that, everybody's welcome to call the Kuhlman Center, 935-8484. We will help people get scheduled wherever they want to go, including at the Wayne County Health Department and including for your Johnson & Johnson clinic.
Appreciate that.
Real quickly, I know we've had the question asked a couple of times, and we do have a slide. There's a state program opening up vaccines to homebound Hoosiers.
Mm-hmm.
It's through LifeStream. You were gonna jump in
That's
that?
great. So there is a homebound portal that people can sign up for through LifeStrings or your area agency on AGIG. We did do every person that was on that homebound list this week. So the Wade County Health Department went out and made sure that everyone that was on this program got their shot this week. So if you are a homebound individual, I encourage you to reach out to LifeStreams and get on that portal, and the health department will go out and give you a shot in your home.
The other thing that we probably need to mention and remind people of, not everybody sees this show every week, is if you are in need of transportation, particularly to the Coleman Center, Roseview Transit, the City of Richmond has been offering free vaccination rides to that location. There's information there on the screen. Call 983-7227 or 983-7301. Bus operation hours 6:15 in the morning to 5:15 in the evening. That is Monday through Saturday. Paratransit also available Monday through Friday between the hours of 10:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. So want to make sure that everybody has a chance to be able to go out and do that. We've got less than a minute left. I'm going to give you the last word. What do you want people to know? You're the health department director.
Yeah, get your shot. When the shot is available, take it. We hope that the state will continue to reduce the eligibility requirements to the point that anyone can have the shot. If we've been out doing congregate care settings, if you have an idea of where you would like to see the health department do a clinic, again, you would have to be an Indiana resident and eligible by the state guidelines. Give the health department a call and we'll talk to you about that and see if that works with us, and we'll bring a clinic to you.
Christine Stinson, Executive Director, Wayne County Health Department. Always good to have you here.
Always good to see you, Eric, and Dr. Huth. Of course, it's good to see you.
Dr. Huth,
Great to
Vice
be with
President,
you both.
Medical Affairs at Reed Health. Once again, thank you very much for your time. Really
My
do,
pleasure.
really do appreciate this. It sounded like I was making fun of you, but your dedication to doing this week after week after week for the community, really important. We really do appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure.
Thank you for watching this week's Ask the Doctors on Whitewater Community Television's WGTV Channel 11. We appreciate you watching. As always, I wish you well. Have a great week. This episode of Ask the Doctors has been brought to you by Wayne County Government.
I think that vaccines, both the Moderna and Pfizer, are safe. Like all vaccines, it went through phase 3 clinical trials, which means it was tested both for safety and effectiveness on large populations of people. The Pfizer had 43,000 people in that clinical trial. Moderna had 30,000. We really need to encourage vaccinations, continue the mask wearing, keeping social distance, washing your hands so we can flatten the curve appropriately.